Welcome to Sherpa-Map, a brand new interactive cycling routing planner with tons of functions, tons of options, and I'm here to give a little tutorial and insight into some of them. So, starting out, what is it? It's an app much like Komoot, Strava, Ride with GPS that lets you define a route that you can then follow on a bicycle, or maybe a different vehicle type, but that's what we're currently sticking with. And it lets you define and manipulate a route by simply clicking around on a map, and then you have a nice graph at the bottom, which shows you your placement on this route. We have a beginning point and an end point. And then the coloration of the actual route itself is showcasing the elevation. And you can easily click and drag these different points around to help create a really nice route. We have information in the upper right-hand corner showing ascent, distance, elevation. Now, we do have many different types of routing profiles. Some sites only give you one. Some sites might give you 3. We give 28. So you can actually choose different routing profiles over here. We have any, which is kind of the shortest path between the points, but still tries to keep things more cycling-oriented. And then you can change things to prefer flat roads. You can change things to prefer hilly roads, gravelly roads, paved roads, leisurely bike paths, things like that, or maybe racy. So say, for instance, you're training for a triathlon, flat paved race will try to give you a good route for banging out those miles on the time trial bike. Now, one unique feature we have that nobody else seems to incorporate in their sites is the ability to right-click and actually change that profile on a segment-by-segment basis. So if you want a portion of your route to prefer gravel and another portion to prefer paved, you can do that. That actually came to me because I had some gravel cycling adventures I had planned a year or so ago that I had tried to just route back to my car, which was in a paved parking lot, and it did all of this screwy stuff all over the place to try and get me there, maybe trying to touch some theoretical gravel. That was when I was using Strava's route planner. And so I knew I needed to make a way that lets you change this on a segment-by-segment basis. I also have some fun tools that let you do things like combine the beginning and the end, so now it's a nice loop. You can, so now you can see you start and you begin at the same area, and it just goes around. You can easily reverse the route. And then there are also some fun tools that lets you change the beginning and the end. So if you want this, for instance, to be the new start end, you can. You can add another waypoint by simply clicking and make that the new start/end. And you can easily see street views of nearby locations. So you can pull this up if Google Maps has a street view of it. No imagery available there, but you get the idea, and that can at least give you a good idea of what the road surface and conditions are like. There's also a directions option, which will pull up directions from your location to that area, so you kind of get an idea of, hey, maybe I made amazing routes, and I didn't realize it was like a 2-hour drive to get there. That lets you kind of find that out. Now, on to some of our more cool features, not saying that those aren't cool already, but that's just kind of showing how to create and manipulate a route. We also have a function to show gravel. So this will actually pull from our server and project gravel roads directly onto the road. And this helps make it very easy to either route on or off of these gravel roads. And so you can quite easily then use this gravel function to try and prefer staying on the gravel, and you can see that it'll try to route on that gravel. If you switch that to paved, it tries as hard as it can to stay off the gravel. And so I thought this would be a nice way to highlight where those fun, adventurous roads are, and also give you a good way to look out in case you're on a bike not equipped to handle gravelly roads. Down here in the graph too, it will also dictate and show you which portions of your route are paved or unknown, and that can be useful. A recent integration is an actual weather radar, so this will display the current weather. Look at that. You can see it develop, you can play it, and you can go back 2 hours worth of data. So this can make it very easy to plan your route and see, well, should I be concerned about some upcoming weather or some other situations? And you can easily toggle that on and toggle that off. You just clear that gravel. Interestingly, I have also integrated a whole weather tab with a litany of other options. It also has kind of a button here to show that weather radar as well. But in here, you can put in the start time when you think you're going to begin doing that route to 5 days in the future, and you can put in the hours it's going to take in order to probably complete that route. See, 108 miles, let's say it's like 6-ish hours. And then it will pull weather data and hopefully show them. There we go. It will pull weather data and come up with a nice tailwind percentage. So you can see that on this route, we have about 68% tailwind. How cool is that? And you can hide some of these different layers and you kind of get a good idea of maybe you just want to see what the wind is going to look like. And you can see information like the maximum wind, the minimum wind, average wind speed, and we have more of that information over here in this information tab. So between these two tools, the weather radar and these different weather attributes, you actually get a very good idea of what you might expect on the route. I've been caught too many times out in the cold or going through a rainstorm, and I don't want any of that. And again, you have some of that data that stays available over here. On to the amenities tab. So this is a pretty useful one for pulling and projecting all sorts of information like public parking, water fountains, gas stations. You can simply select them, click load. Well, appears I have to zoom in a bit to use this. And you can see where maybe a good spot is to begin a ride or a good cafe would be throughout the ride. So lots of options there. And of course, we support many different map types. I currently have the Garmin terrain map type on, but you can do bicycle layers through Garmin. You can switch it to road. You can do the Mapbox layer. We, of course, support the OpenStreetMap map, as well as the Bicycle OpenStreetMap map, which is a fun one, but it's hosted in France, so it can be a little bit slow to use, but it's still a fascinating and very powerful map. So lots of options there. To top things off, we have the line type options at the bottom, including a basic line. Let me clear off some of this weather data. Including a basic line, making it easy to understand where that route is. And then we have some more advanced options like the gradient, so you can see where you might have some pain points along your route, the elevation one, which is the default, as well as a surface one, which can show you with a nice looking little legend here the percentages of different surface types you can expect to encounter along your route. So by this time you might have noticed that we actually have a decent amount of unknown in the route. My site is the only one that can offer some type of a solution for this. I'll admit it was very hard to program, but it's quite satisfying. So the option is Define Unknown, which can be found when you select the surface type, line type. And what this does is it actually pulls satellite imagery in real time to our server, and it uses a PyTorch AI classifier that I trained on hundreds of thousands of images of classified road surfaces to actually update in real time and figure out what type of road surface that is. Once it's done, it completes the graph, and you can see here that the surface is in fact all paved, even though the one database that contains surface data, OpenStreetMap, doesn't actually have the surface type for all of the areas within this road. And you can see that breakdown up here as well is now currently reflected. This does have a slight cap on the account, but it's like a daily limitation, which just prevents me from getting blocked from pulling images, things like that. It has no cost or anything like that. And it's just super fun to run, and it can help keep the mystery out of your route planning. So speaking of route planning, we also have the ability to generate routes. Sometimes you just kind of don't want to go through the effort of putting one together yourself, so it's like, might as well come up with a solution that lets you generate one. So this uses some approximations and some other like amorphous moving rectangle and some back-end fun stuff to try and come up with a fun route given the profile that you've selected and the direction that you want. And so you can put in a mileage or kilometer amount here depending on, obviously your unit, and you can select directions and it will just go ahead and keep generating routes for you. So in this case, I chose a 50-mile route, came out to be around 63, but it's a pretty fun route. And you can see too that the route is staying predominantly paved, which in this section of Iowa is hard, let me tell you. There is a lot of gravel routes here. So Just delete that for the moment. And you can just keep playing around with and generating routes different directions. You can change that start location, brings up this nice crosshair, which works really well on mobile. And we don't really have limitations on the size and scale of these routes that you might want to create. So you can put in a 200-mile route if you want, 300, have fun. And so it just tries to generate you some nice routes with a pretty easy-to-use interface, and it's really easy to manipulate them and reverse them. You can figure out the tailwind percentage and try to optimize it, so you have lots of options there. And just wanted to talk about the graph a little bit more. I've included a nice option that lets you select portions of the route, actually drag around a selection to get an idea of what the descent or ascent might look like, and that's cumulative ascent and descent, by the way, as well as a color-coded gradient that gives an idea of, well, how steep is it? Looks like I didn't find anything particularly steep on this route, but it should turn from red to green depending on how steep it is. And as you can see, there's a nice selection too that appears on the route, dictating where you are seeing this data. Beyond this, I have a lot of the regular options you would expect: ability to share route, ability to send routes to Garmin. You can upload GPX files, of course, and you can even upload a route as a guide, which kind of just makes a projection in the background, which is pretty neat. You can, of course, view and save routes, so you can see all these nice saved routes right here. And you have the option to edit, modify, and really do whatever you would like with them. And you can delete them, of course, as well, saving me a little bit of server load. And you can easily filter them and sort them and have all sorts of fun in this menu and search for them. There's no limitation on this as well. Feel free to save as many routes as you'd like. So this is a nice brief overview of a lot of the functions of the site, and I hope that you give it a chance. You try it out at some point, and if you have any feedback or thoughts, just know it's a fun work in progress between a few friends, and we are happy and willing to make any updates or changes or add features that you might request at practically any time. It's just a really fun project of passion. In any case, hope you enjoy it.